Aries. Aries symbol in the first half of today, there's a tendency to focus on areas of your life that don't feel under your control, dear Aries. The Sun and Pluto form a square, and tensions can dominate. Still, triggered areas are revealing. Try to avoid letting pressures rule you. In truth, you're in an important cycle for awakening to your needs, particularly in your relationships. While the extra attention you've given other people in your life is beneficial, overdoing it can lead you to overlook some of your own needs and desires. Worries about rules, achievements, performance benchmarks, or professional matters can dominate. Your concerns should be addressed, but consider that you may be stressing yourself out unnecessarily. If there are looming problems, aim to make improvements without pressuring yourself. Keep things moderate for the best results. The moon spends the day in your solar 12th house, a time of a natural need to recharge and replenish yourself emotionally. It's not the best day for visibility, but some withdrawal can be helpful and therapeutic. Taurus. Taurus symbol tensions can rise in the first half of the day, dear Taurus, as the Sun and Pluto form a square aspect. Differences in opinion or method can be more frustrating than usual. Worries can also disrupt your daily routines, work, or a general feeling of being on top of things. If problems are brewing related to workload or relationship dynamics, they may come to a head now. Avoid getting caught up in power plays, but consider that triggered spots can be revealing since they are areas of your psyche that need extra attention. Take the pressure off, and consider that it's all too easy to make mountains out of molehills with this transit. If you find yourself in a negative space of regret, remind yourself to focus on the one thing you can control in life, your attitude. Fortunately, the moon spends the day in your social sector, encouraging your need for more attention to your happiness goals, dreams, and wishes. As the day advances, it becomes far easier to unwind. Gemini. Gemini symbol you can experience some tension in the first half of the day, dear Gemini, until you figure out the fears or frustrations behind any stress you may be feeling. Part of you craves light-hearted, fun connections and projects, but another part seeks something more profound. Mixed messages can result, and they may be given or received. If you're holding on to resentments, they might surface in unexpected ways now. A Sun-Pluto square can find you feeling a little fearful or uncertain, and it's best to avoid letting it rule your behavior. Instead, aim to take a step back to get perspective. You might be thinking in extremes, undermining your judgment with relationships and money mostly. A bit of detachment can benefit you at times like these. The moon spends the day in your professional or public sector, sensitizing you to those things you're projecting in your career or to society, with an eye for improvement. Cancer. Cancer symbol the Sun forms a square aspect to Pluto early today, dear Cancer, and you can experience some extremes of feeling, or fears can be stronger than usual. Tension emerges if you or someone in your life is holding on too tightly to a belief or method. Whether you're the one who is trying to control a situation or a partner is attempting to control you, the root problem is fear of change, so you may want to nip that in the bud. We may be thinking in extremes or listening too closely to our worries under the influence of this transit. Relationships can feel heavy. However, intense emotions may motivate you to protect your interests more effectively, so allow yourself to feel them, but take the pressure off to resolve the problem immediately. Your path is to attempt to let go of unnecessary worry and guilt and to trust in a larger, more spiritual plan. The moon spends the day in the area of your solar chart that rules your spirit to grow, explore, and expand beyond the everyday experiences in your life. Circumstances or your mood can seem to nudge you out of your usual routine as the day advances. Leo. Tensions are possible in the first part of the day, dear Leo, with the Sun square Pluto. You may be so attached to your routines and methods that friction occurs with others, or you may be putting quite a bit of pressure on yourself to get too many things done, which can stress you out. This transit tends to magnify worries and perhaps a bit of paranoia. The trick now is to be moderate since going overboard can lead to unnecessary pressure. Try not to push yourself too hard. If you're overly attached to your routines, work, or health pursuits, you're likely to recognize it as a problem today. Be sure to avoid making decisions based on mixed perceptions of the moment. Aim to work on those projects that are already in progress or take some downtime. The moon's transit of your intimacy sector also inclines you to dig a little deeper. You may very well address dependencies and issues of support. Virgo. In the first half of the day, the atmosphere can be somewhat charged, dear Virgo. Worries about money and love can surface, or there may be competing desires for security and excitement, and it can be challenging to satisfy both needs. Try not to be ruled by tension caused by the Sun square to Pluto. This transit can find you on the defensive, or it can magnify worries and fears temporarily. Attempts to over-control or micromanage people and things can be a warning sign that you're overly attached. Easing this pressure, even a little, can be helpful. Even so, it's a good time to identify your vulnerable areas and resolve to work on strengthening these areas. It's best not to push yourself to solve long-standing problems all at once since it's unrealistic. A step-by-step approach is best. Examine insecurities, as some self-understanding can put you in a stronger position. As the day advances, you learn more if you relax and observe rather than push and prod. The moon spends the day in your partnership sector, and you're more strongly aware of your need for support and companionship. A relationship can bump up to a new level today. Libra. A Sun-Pluto square can magnify fears or worries in the first half of today, dear Libra. Concerns about personal matters can undermine your confidence, or unresolved issues might emerge from your past, pulling up old hurts and grievances. Try to avoid putting too much pressure on yourself, and aim to avoid dwelling on matters that you can't change. Worrying excessively about issues that haven't happened does you no good. Concerns about matters on the home front or your personal life can undermine your confidence, while the desire for independence and the escape of your responsibilities can be strong. This aspect can seem to unbury old grievances. However, what surfaces now could help break you away from past negative patterns. Moderate actions are best. The moon spends the day in your service sector, stimulating a desire to set the smaller things in your life in order. Ultimately, this helps free you for more interactive and inspirational activities later. An optimistic attitude serves you well. Scorpio. With the Sun and Pluto clashing early today, dear Scorpio, reading too much into others' actions and words can stir up more friction than you need. If you fear the worst, it can be tempting to seek the worst because you don't want it to take you off guard. Emotional satisfaction comes from genuinely connecting with others on a deep level, and defensiveness or suspicion will not get you any closer to others or yourself. Focus on ways to improve your productivity for best results now. The moon spends the day in your romance and creativity sector, and you have a stronger sense of your need for fun, recreation, and self-expression. It becomes far easier to unwind as the day advances. Sagittarius. In the first half of the day, a Sun-Pluto challenge can pull up buried frustration, dear Sagittarius, perhaps in disruptive ways. Still, it can put you in the right frame of mind to sort things out. Tame the inclination to dwell on the negative elements of your life unless you're ready to do something about problem areas. You or someone close to you may feel a little threatened by potential changes, which can be a natural reaction, but talking things through can help settle your mind. With this transit, it's best to ask ourselves whether we're pushing for the truth or just power tripping. Make plans to improve your life rather than dwell on past mistakes. Find ways to loosen up and relax, and if this means removing yourself from tense situations, do so if you can. It undoubtedly becomes easier as the day advances. The moon spends the day in your solar fourth house, encouraging a stronger awareness of your personal life or living conditions and arrangements. You might focus on building your support system or base of operations today, and some self-pampering can be good for your soul right now. Capricorn. Concerns about a work project or function can magnify in the first half of the day, dear Capricorn, as the Sun at the top of your solar chart clashes with Pluto in your sign. Watch for regrettable behavior stemming from fears of being out of the loop. While you may be frustrated with people who seem to have an agenda, you have the power to rise above it and focus on doing your best. While you can't control others, you can control where you put your energies. Aim to go forward with the resolve to manage your life more efficiently. Doubts are possible today, but these can help you to identify weaker areas that can use a bit of strengthening. The moon spends the day in your communications sector, encouraging you to connect and express yourself. This comes far easier as the day advances. Aquarius. In the first half of the day, watch for overthinking, dear Aquarius. There is some tendency to dwell on past problems or unfinished business, which can weigh you down or dampen your spirit. With the Sun and Pluto challenging one another, circumstances can reveal where you've been overly attached. Ideally, this transit clarifies what steps you can take to free yourself from fear in these areas of life. You may be experiencing difficulties keeping things to yourself, or differing belief systems can trigger buried frustration. Consider that micromanaging or obsessing over a problem is likely to be self-destructive right now. As well, watch for processing so much information that you suffer from sensory overload. Aim to detach yourself enough to regain your composure. The moon's transit of your solar second house inclines you to select activities that keep you grounded. Energies are stable, but the day in no way lacks imagination as the day advances. Pisces. In the first half of the day, watch for reading too much into a situation as the Sun and Pluto form a square, dear Pisces. Challenges experienced now may be getting you in better touch with your vulnerabilities, so it's best to take note. Avoid making quick decisions that are more about fear, guilt, or dread than common sense. Still, the illumination of a tricky subject or a buried frustration can emerge. Although it can surface so that you might finally deal with it, you may be feeling a tad irritable. Sorting through the truths and deeper emotions that arise now can be helpful. Find ways to build your sense of self-worth, value, security, and comfort rather than dwell on what's missing. We tend to overthink and jump to negative conclusions with this transit. If people or situations are touching your sore spots, take the opportunity to understand yourself. The moon spends the day in your sign, and your emotions are on the surface. You tend to prioritize emotional needs over practical ones with this transit.